So I said I'll be back, but yeah, I'll put my time towards other things. The other thing was 2K. Probably should have dropped clips or something of me grinding. I am at 94. Yes, 94. Two-way slashing playmaker on there. That'll tell you how much I've been grinding. The game hadn't even been out a month, and I'm already at 94, going on to 95. So I probably should have dropped clips or something of me grinding to kind of put out some type of content just to let you guys know what I was doing and what I had going on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not making no full video saying I'm back. I'm back now. I'm going to start it off with a college football predictions video today. I'm going to go ahead and try to get it out today if possible, depending on how the editing goes. But I am back. I picked 4 games from this week that I thought would be very, very important towards the college football playoff picture. Of course, I feel like upsets can possibly happen depending on how the teams come in, depending on how they play and everything. And that's obviously on a week-to-week basis. But these are the 4 games that I thought were the biggest games in my mind, because it wasn't really too many of those big marquee games this week. But yeah, I'm back. College football prediction video. Let's get into it.
What is real will prosper.
Put a curtain back, heart racing, but the love won't land. Erase it. I ain't gonna change your love. I had to change your love. Put a curtain back.
Number 13, Oregon Ducks versus the Cal Bears. All right, let's start with the number 13 team in the country, the Oregon Ducks. On the season, Oregon is 3-1, first in the Pac-12 North, and 1-0 in his respective conference. Justin Herbert went 19 for 24 last week for 259 yards, 3 touchdowns in their win against Stanford, beating them 21-6. Oregon's defense held Stanford to 120 yards passing and forced 1 interception last week. On the season, Oregon is 17th in points per game with 38.5, 7th in points allowed, averaging 458.8 yards per game, 304 passing yards per game, 262 yards allowed, which is 10th in the country. Herbert is playing well, even though Oregon does have 1 loss on the season. He has over 1,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 74 completion percentage this year. Oregon still has a chance to be in the Final Four this year. They need a lot of things to shake their way, but I think that loss at the beginning of the season against Auburn will really, really hurt them. They basically have to go undefeated to even make it or be in the conversation to get it, because the Pac-12 is considerably a weaker conference this year compared to the other conferences. But I think that Oregon can play well enough to get in this Final Four spot eventually. All right, now on to the Cal Bears. Cal is 4-1 on the season, second in the Pac-12 North, and 1-1 in this respective conference. Last game, lost to Arizona State 24-17. Cal struggled mightily on offense, mustering up only 245 yards of total offense, which opened the game for ASU to take advantage of their defense. We already know if you don't have a good offense and you put your defense on the field too much, the other team is going to score no matter if they're good on offense or not. Chase Garbers went 9 for 12 for 117 yards, but left with an injury during the game and has been ruled out for this game with an arm injury. His backup, Devin Monte, came in and played horrible, going 5 for 14 for 23 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Outside of that, on the season, Cal is 77th in points per game with 23 points a game, 25th in points allowed, averaged 346 yards per game, 108.2 passing yards per game, 147.8 rushing yards per game, and 366.2 yards allowed per game, which is 53rd in the country. Cal has played pretty well on offense when they had their starter in. Don't know what they're going to do with their backup coming in. It might be a little bit difficult for them to maneuver. Just from seeing a couple of highlights and watching the game from how Cal played Arizona State, their defense looked like they couldn't stop anybody from running the ball. I think that's going to be a problem in this game against Oregon because I think that their running backs are really, really fast, and I think they can get off in the running and passing game if they let them. I think this is going to be a tough game for Cal, but if Oregon comes into this game sleep, even though they're at home, they have a chance to upset them at home. With everything said, with all the stats and all the other stuff aside, this is one of those games where a team can just roll their helmets out on the field. Oregon could be coming into this game super, super confident, super, super cocky. Like, they don't have their starting quarterback. They couldn't stop nobody from running last game. They couldn't stop the offense from moving down the field and scoring each drive. But if Oregon gets too cocky and Cal comes in with enough motivation, they can definitely surprise some people and they can definitely upset them at home. At the moment, Oregon is favored by 18, but Cal can make this a very, very close game with their backup quarterback and having another week up under his belt and giving the offensive coordinator a chance to build the offense around the backup and give him a chance this week in order to beat Oregon. I still think that Oregon's going to win by at least 14. Cal is going to surprise some people with their backup quarterback, in my opinion, because I feel like, again, he has another week. The offensive coordinator has another week to build an offense around him that's based on his skill set and his skill set alone rather than the starting quarterback. But again, Oregon wins this game, moves on. Number 4, Ohio State versus number 25, Michigan State. All right, let's start talking about the number 4 team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State is 5-0 on the season, first in the Big Ten East, and 2-0 in this respective conference. Beat Nebraska 48-7 last week, dominating the game. Justin Fields, who transferred over from Georgia, played amazing, going 15 for 21, 212 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, rushed 12 times for 72 yards, and another touchdown as well. On the season, he has over 1,000 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 46 rushes for 222 yards, and 7 touchdowns as well. The OSU defense last week held Nebraska to 231 yards of total offense, but only giving up 47 yards passing, with 3 interceptions, 2 by future first-round corner Jeff Okudah. This team is one of the best teams in the country, hands down. I think they're going to be in the Final Four at the end of the year. It's almost a lock. I don't see anybody on their schedule beating them, including Michigan State this game. I don't see how it happens. But you have to play the game in order for anything to take place. On the season, OSU is 3rd in points per game with 52.4, 4th in points allowed with 8.6, 8th in total yards with 537.2 per game, 254 passing yards per game, 283.2 rushing yards per game, which is 7th in the country, 2nd in total yards allowed with 223.8 yards per game this year. Now on to the 25th ranked team in the country, the Michigan State Spartans. Michigan State is 4-1 on the season, first in the Big Ten East, 2-0 in this conference. Beat Indiana last week, 40-31. Their quarterback, Brian Lewerke, played a good game, going 18 for 36 for 300 yards and 3 TDs, along with 12 carries for 78 yards. On the season, he has passed for over 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, and also has 37 rushes for 147 yards. The Michigan State defense gave up 356 yards of offense, but forced a clutch turnover to win the game at the end. On the season, Michigan State is 48th in points per game with 31.4, 13th in points allowed per game with 15, 67th in total yards per game with 413.6, 41st in passing yards per game with 269 yards, 79th in rushing yards per game with 144.6, and 7th in yards per game with 253.8. I think with last game, I think they had a really, really lucky win for what it looks like. They forced the turnover in order to win, but I don't know if they're going to be able to rely on luck like they did against Indiana last week. Indiana's offense is nowhere near the offense that Ohio State is. I think Michigan State is going to have a couple of problems, but I think they can hold up if they can improve defensively and try to hold that Ohio State offense down a little bit. Okay, with all the stats being said and all the stats aside, I think that Ohio State is going to win this game by 21. Reason why I say that, I think Justin Fields is going to have an amazing game once again. He's been having an amazing season so far ever since he's transferred from Georgia. And honestly, I think that Michigan State offense can't keep up. That defense can't keep up. I don't think, even if it goes into like a shootout type of atmosphere or a shootout type of game, Michigan State's offense can't do it. They scored 40 last week, but you gotta be able to stop the other team. Like I said, Indiana's offense compared to Ohio State's offense, you gotta think about it. Like, it's no comparison at all. You got a quarterback that can easily go over 500 yards total offense a game, and you have a running back that can easily rush for about 200 yards a game if they gave him the ball more. What can you say? Ohio State by 21, I think it's going to be a blowout. Number 14, Iowa versus number 19, Michigan. The number 14 Iowa Hawkeyes are 4-0 on the season, second in the Big Ten West with a 1-0 record in its respective conference. Beat Middle Tennessee last week in dominating fashion, winning 48-3. Nate Stanley goes off, going 17 for 25 for 276 yards passing and 2 passing TDs, and he was followed with a great rushing attack, with Torian Young going 11 for 131 on the ground, Tyler Goodson going 12 for 97 on the ground, and Micah Sargent going 14 for 91 yards on the ground as well. Stanley, the starting quarterback for the season, has 965 yards passing, 8 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. The running backs that follow behind him are having great seasons themselves. Sargent, Goodson, and Young are all over 200 yards rushing to this point this season. Last game, Iowa's defense held Middle Tennessee to 3 points and only 216 yards of total offense, something that they should do against lesser opponents. On the season, Iowa is 37th in points per game with 33.5, third in points allowed per game with 8.5, 29th in yards per game with 425, averaging 247.5 yards per game, passing the ball 217.5 rushing yards per game, and allowing only 251 yards per game, which is 5th in the country. For this game, I think the defense will come up big, and I think they should come up big. They've been playing pretty well all year. I've pretty much been watching Iowa's games for a while. They have came up with plenty of upsets over the past couple years, but this has been one of the best teams that they've been able to produce to date in my mind. The fact that they can win on both sides of the ball is a huge thing, and I think it's going to give Michigan trouble in this game. Now let's talk about the 19th ranked Michigan Wolverines. On the season, Michigan is 3-1, 4th in the Big Ten East with a 1-1 record in this respective conference. Destroys Rutgers last week, 52-0. Shea Patterson plays an amazing game, going 17 for 23 passing, 276 yards, and 1 pass touchdown with 3 rushing touchdowns added on to it. This season, he has passed for 905 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. The Michigan destroys Rutgers offense throughout the game last week if you did not watch, holding them to 152 yards of offense and shutting them completely out. On the season, Michigan is 43rd in points per game, 28th in points allowed per game, 77th in yards per game with 392, 44th in passing yards with 261.5, 130.5 rushing yards per game, and 295.8 yards allowed per game, which is 22nd in the country. Now, for Michigan, I feel like during this game, I'm not going to forget the fact that y'all just got beat 2 weeks ago. Wisconsin, really bad. And in this game, I felt like y'all cannot find your offensive identity, and I still feel like they're having an identity crisis. Their defense is good, but when your offense plays as bad as they have in big games, I don't know how you feel about that going into this game. This is a pretty big game. It's heavily rated, and honestly, if Michigan doesn't win this game, they're pretty much out of the race and even winning the Big Ten this year, especially with the way Ohio State's playing. So I don't know for sure how this game is going to go. If they go into this game, going into it, having the same type of mentality and the offense clicking like it was last game against Rutgers, it's going to be a really, really tough out for Michigan in this game. They'll be able to beat Iowa easily. Yes, I know. I'm doing my recording separately. I had to go get a haircut. But we're back to the video and back to my predictions. But for this game, I've seen Michigan play in these big games for the past couple years since Harbaugh has been coach, and what I've noticed is Patterson shrinks under the bright lights of a big game, and I don't understand why. Michigan has a plenty good team to win and go to the national championship. They've had it over the past couple of years, and I don't understand why they can't win. I think Patterson will shrink under the pressure once again, like he has before, like he did against Ohio State, like he did against Wisconsin 2 weeks ago. I don't believe that Michigan is going to win this game. Like I said before, they don't have an offensive identity. They don't know if they want to run the ball, they want to pass the ball. It just seems like they're just so lost. And compared to Iowa knows what they want to do. They're going to play smash mouth, hard nosed football and run it down your throat if you give them a chance and help out their quarterback who's playing well as anybody in the country right now. Honestly, I think Iowa's going to go into the big house and win by 7. And I'm sad to say, this might end the Harbaugh era in Michigan. He's lost entirely too much. He hasn't done anything with pretty good teams over the past couple years. And it might be time for him to go. Iowa by 7. Now, finally, your game of the week. Number 7 Auburn versus number 10 Florida. All right, let's get into the number 7th team in the country, the Auburn Tigers. They are 5-0 on the season, first in the SEC West with a 2-0 record respectively in the SEC. Beat Mississippi State last week 56-23. Bo Nix has a great game going 16 for 21 for 335 yards, 2 touchdowns with 7 carries for 56 yards and another touchdown to add on, which was rushing. On the season, Bo Nix has 980 yards passing, 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions with 35 carries for 173 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. The game was over before half. I was watching this while I was at work. Auburn scores 21 in the first. Mississippi State only scores 3. Auburn in the second quarter scores 21 again. Mississippi State only scores 6. The game was over before half. There's nothing much to say about this game. Pure domination from Auburn. The Auburn defense held Mississippi State to 9 points in the first half, setting up that offense pretty well to do as well as they did. Auburn offense has finally started clicking with Bo and standout wide receiver Seth Williams, who caught the ball last week 8 times for 161 yards and 2 touchdowns. If that is not a star in college football or a star wide receiver in general, I don't know what is. On the season, Auburn is 20th in points per game with 38 points, 19th in points allowed a game with 17.2, 36th in yards per game with 454.4, 95th in passing yards per game with 203.4 per game, 13th in rushing yards per game with 251, and 33rd in yards allowed per game with 320.2. Keys to the game, Bo Nix. He's played well up to this point. Even when this came down to the bright lights, he's been able to play extremely well. Against Oregon, throws the game-winning touchdown. Against Texas A&M, runs and gets the first down to ice the game. This kid may be something special and we don't even know it yet. He's done so many good things as a true freshman that I couldn't even realize. I think that him and that running game is going to be Auburn's best friend. As long as they can keep that defense off the field and not just keep throwing them out there and out there and out there, they have a chance to definitely win this game. As for the number 10 Florida Gators, they are 5-0, first in the SEC East and 2-0 in the SEC. Beat Townsend last week 38-0, pretty convincingly against a team that was, pretty much a warm-up game for him. Kyle Trask goes 18 for 20, 188 yards and 2 touchdowns on the season. He has passed for 647 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Trask has done well after stepping in for Felipe Franks, who got hurt during the season. He dislocated his ankle and he will be out for the season, unfortunately. Hope he rests up. Hope he comes back stronger than ever next year. Outside of that, during the game, Florida's defense held Townsend to 248 yards of offense and forced a fumble and 2 interceptions as well. Complete domination by Florida's defense, holding Townsend to 0. On the season, Florida is 34th in points per game with 34, 5th in points allowed per game, 53rd in total yards per game with 429.6, 28th in passing yards per game with 288.2 yards per game, 141.4 rushing yards per game, and they are 15th in yards allowed with 279.2 yards per game. I think the key for Florida here will definitely be Trask. Like, he has to be able to move this offense down the field. If not, and they let Auburn have a complete field day, Auburn's offense is going to get clicking early, and that's something that Florida doesn't want. Offense playing back, consistently putting their defense on the field, that is not a good mixture for any team that wants to win and win consistently. Secondly, Florida's defense, they have to get back there and get Bo Nix. If they don't get back there and get Bo Nix, or at least rattle him in some type of way, shape, or form, he's going to be able to pick apart this defense. And also, stopping the run game, putting the ball in Bo Nix's hands, see what he can do. If he can actually pass the ball, can he build upon what he did last week? Is this really who he is? You got to do a lot in order to beat this team, and you got to overcome a lot. You don't have your starting quarterback. You have a backup in there. Your defense has to play almost a perfect game just to beat the team that is coming to town. All right, in this game, I think that Auburn's going to end up winning this game. It's going to be a great game overall, but I think that Auburn's going to win this game. I don't think Trask has enough to move the Florida offense up and down the field on that Auburn defense at all. I think Bo is going to be the superior quarterback of the two. Obviously, he's played up under the big lights already, and he hasn't shrunk, not once in my opinion. Trask hasn't played in a big game like this, hasn't been in an atmosphere like this. But again, anything can happen. Florida is at home. It's a hostile environment. College game day is going to be there as well. It's going to be crazy. We all know how it is when college game day comes to town, especially here in Tuscaloosa. We all know how college game day can be. But even in that hostile environment, Bo Nix has already been to another one at Texas A&M and played well. I think he's going to play well here. That defense is going to confuse Trask all day. I think they're going to make him throw a couple of interceptions, and that's just pretty much going to seal the game for him. Auburn's rushing, and the way Seth has played over the past couple games, I don't see anybody that can cover him on that field on Florida's side of the ball, especially if the offense is struggling and the defense is continuously getting put out there on the field. It's just a whole mixture of bad stuff. I really think that Florida's going to miss Franks here. He would have played well in this environment, would have thrived in this environment, because he has over the past couple of years as the quarterback for Florida as well. So I think they're really going to miss him this game, and I think Florida's going to go down at home to Auburn by 7. All right, with everything being done, everything being said, I went over the 4 games, went in depth with stats, what I thought, who was going to win. If you want to bet on those teams, you do that. I don't say that my words are the Bible and believe it wholeheartedly and you're going to win your bets. I will never say that, because that makes no sense. Yes, my chest was kind of itching right there. But overall, I've given the video. You analyze it, tell me how it went. If you believe that it went well, it will get better over time, of course, because I want to get better over time. I want to keep on getting better over time while I'm in this YouTube game. But these videos will get better over time. They will be structured a lot differently as well as time goes on, as I try to get better, as I gain knowledge from others as well, and I gain feedback from you guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what I'm doing wrong on the channel, what I need to do better, especially with these videos right here, because it's so interactive with you guys. And, you know, if I feel like, or if other people feel like I should give more so far as stats, I should dig in a little bit deeper, I will. But other than that, like I said before, like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoy. And I'm going to outro you with a different video. New outro up now. Did you guys like that video? You did? Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to put 2 videos on the left and the right of me right now, so you guys can watch as well if you want more. Make sure you check out my channel as well. The music that I use behind my videos will also be in the description as well. Make sure you check out my social medias, which will be in the description. And also, Very, very important. Make sure you subscribe to the KTTV podcast. Will be coming out on Mondays and Tuesdays. It will be a sports and wrestling podcast for you all to enjoy. Thank you so much for supporting my videos. Thank you so much for leaving a like. Thank you so much for commenting. And thank you so much for subscribing. All right, this is Keyshawn for KTTV. I'm out.